All right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minista. This week's message from the Minista is God focus. God focus. And this week's message is going to be about God and focus, and really about our focus on God. And what is God focusing on? God is focused on us. You know, we wouldn't even be here if there wasn't an aspect or a part of God that wasn't focused on each and every one of us at every moment of the day. You know, sometimes I sit there and I think about the magnitude of creation and really the magnitude of the Creator. That there is this being that all at the same time is thinking through every single one of us, those in the future and those in the past. Those in the so-called future and those in the so-called past, all at the same time, right? Like every human being that ever existed or what will ever exist, there is a greater being that is thinking through all of us at the same time, a greater law governing us all at the same time. You start getting into just the plants, right? The grasses, the trees, all the insects, all the birds, all the fish, all the whales, all the mammals, and everything in between. Let alone the rain, the water, the dirt, the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars. What kind of a being has so much focus that everything is happening effortlessly, yet at the same time is so focused on us as the individual, so focused on your life, that that being that is thinking it all, sustaining it all across all time and space, that being can hear you and respond to you, and is also so interested in everything that you are doing that your entire life revolves around you. And how many times do we hear growing up, life don't revolve around you, life don't revolve around you? Well, you know what? That's a lie. Each of us, our life revolves around us. We're like the fulcrum. We're the center of our universe. Each one of us. So there are many centers. There are many fulcrums. There are many perspectives. There are many focuses. But what is God focus? Well, God focus is me taking a quick moment and recognizing how many of y'all have showed up here. And I think what to me is the most exciting thing when y'all keep showing up is I'm seeing more and more of you from the future who have gone back in time to watch these videos that I'm filming right now. Like, to me, that's the most amazing things. I say each week, I average between 40 and 70 viewers. And then as time goes on, you'll see like 120 views on certain videos. Now, I don't know how many are rewatching videos or how many's watching the whole thing or just watching a little bit. I don't know. And that's not up to me. But what I do know is that like every week, the audience is getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the spirit across time and space. And we're all focused here right now on what I'm saying, but I'm an MC. MC is divine speech, right? And so I come out here and I move with God, the Creator, who's focused on all of us here in this time, in this space right now. I want that God to be able to communicate with Himself. And I think, and I know God wants Zin Uru to be able to speak and communicate something that's going to be helpful, hopefully, for you all. Like, I'm not here to be impressive. I'm not here to be funny. I'm not a comedian like that. I'm not even here to give like maybe life coaching advice, maybe some inspiration, maybe some good stories. But really what it is about What is your focus on? Is your focus on God? Is your focus on yourself? And if you focus on God, you'll realize that God's focused on you. And we should be focused on what God is focused on. I think we sometimes get it messed up. We get it mixed up in our minds. We say, because we have this God force. We have this God power that we use all the time. We're going to read about that later on during this message. We've got this source of power and this source of energy, this source of creation in us, this source of creativity in us. That is it's so powerful, it's literally built the world around us. And unfortunately, for most of us, everywhere, we live in a class society where they make certain classes, upper classes, middle classes, lower classes of society. And so for those of us who are beyond class, because in truth, no enlightened society would ever have a caste system, a class system. But we're in that system, so many of us start wanting the things that the system above us might have. So poor folk look at the middle class or the upper class and want what they have. And then vice versa, the upper class and the lower class look at the poorer class and say, oh, we don't want what they have. So each class is saying, the so-called lower classes, once again, these are the colonizers' concepts, not ours. But so the lower class is sitting there going, anything I got to do to get up there, I'm going to do what I got to do to get up there, right? And the other classes are going, anything I got to do so I don't go down there, right? Right? So certain religions, and man-made religions, that take the words of the masters and twist them and distort them and colonize them. They come in and they're like, well, the word says that, these people should be up here and these should be down here, and that's just the way things are. And people say, oh, okay, word. And then they go to those churches, or they go to those places, and maybe the pastor is like, God loves the humble of heart, and then other pastors up will say, oh, God is blessing you with $1 billion. You're blessed by God. And so everybody's like saying, oh, I don't want to go down there. I want to rise up to there, whatever up and down is supposed to be. But see how the religion is doing that? That's not God focus. People aren't focused on what God is focused on. People are focused on what man is focused on through the lens of religion, through the lens of man-made religion. Man-manipulated religions that have little, if nothing, to do with those who are the masters, those who are the Christ, that who is the Messiah, that who is the Buddha, that who is Krishna, what they were actually saying and teaching to humanity. And if we don't know what God's focused on, which is us, you mean God's focused on me? Why would God be focused on me? God's intimately interested in you and where you're going and where we are headed as people. Why else would we experience miracles? Do we see the miracles in our day-to-day life? Or are the miracles those things that we accomplish that the colonizer has conditioned us to accomplish while we either try and maintain life at a certain level so we don't fall to a lower level, or we try and maintain life from a lower level so we don't rise up to a higher level? And I don't even believe in lower or higher levels. That's colonizer thinking. All of it is colonizer thinking. But I think you understand what I'm saying here, what the analogy is here, because we all experience it. And it's like I see this on Facebook sometimes. Somebody will post, it's gotten around for a while. I bet you if I say I got a new job, I'll get 100 likes. But I bet you if I say I just started my own business, I'll only get 5 likes. See how that colonizer thinking's happening even on Facebook in that way? And part of it is like people ain't going to be excited for you to start your own business because they ain't started their own business. People ain't going to be excited. They'll be excited for you if you got a job because they got a job or they want a job, right? And if they want to start their own business and they really down with you like that, they're going to give you a thumbs up on your business. And hopefully they help support that business too. What is God focused on in each of our lives? I can't even say. I can tell you what God is focused on in my life. I can tell you what my God focus is. The focus that this focus that comes from the Creator, this focus that comes from God, this pinpoint accurate focus, this laser sharp focus, this third eye focus, this heart-centered focus. I can tell you what I'm focused on. And it changes. Like, it's wonderful to have focus because you can be looking at things long distance and focus on it. Then you can move your focus to something in the immediate future and then focus on something over here. You can focus on certain things that you want to avoid in life, right? Because God focus is going to help you focus on not only to accomplish those things or be where you need to be in life. God's going to help you focus onto those places you don't need to be so you don't go there when you see them. It's like driving. I'll tell you, remember last week I got in a wreck, right? I got in a wreck last week. And this week, 4 more accidents. 4 more accidents. 4 more. I don't know that I've seen 4 accidents in the last 2.5 years living here. What's up with all these accidents? I don't know. Maybe it's just a phenomenon I just experienced this week. But it brought me into this God focus because, like, you ain't got to be focused just on yourself. You got to be focused on those around you, too, if you want to survive. You got to be aware on some level on what's going on around you if you want to survive. You know, they always talk about the law of attraction this and the law of attraction that. And you know, hey, it works. I know it. I teach it. But I'm also real about it. Did the law of attraction cause people's businesses to close down last year, never to reopen again? Family businesses out of business, doors shut, closed for good? Did the law of attraction, invite, police brutality on somebody? The murder of an innocent man? Is that law of attraction too? Did that person just believe in police murder so bad that they just attracted that into their lives? Now think about it for a minute. What's being really shown? Like when you're driving, you're not just driving for yourself. You're driving for everybody else around you if you're a good driver. If you value your life and the life of your passengers, you have to be driving not only for yourself, but everybody else who's on the road around you. You have to pay attention to what's going on. And even like myself, I pay attention. I'm slow I move right, I pay attention, I'm focused. And so when I'm backing out and stopping ready to go forward and somebody just slams into me, I was like, yo, where did they come from? I literally looked back, didn't see him, looked forward to start moving, and all of a sudden, bam, right? I'm focused on paying attention. I'll say what the focus was able to do, though, was get me safe and, get things moving around in the right direction. But the point is that when we're out and about in our daily life, we have to be not only responsible for our actions, and we're not responsible for other people's actions. I'm not saying that here. But we have to be aware of what they're doing. We have to drive for them in that way. We have to pay attention. And you start noticing, this is something the teacher taught me many years ago when we were driving down in Los Angeles traffic, And so he'd always tell me, like, yo, Zin, you don't know who's in that car next to you. I was like, yeah, that's word right there. You don't know who's in that car next to you. You don't know what they're capable of. You don't know what kind of day they're having. You don't know nothing. You don't know if they're on something. You don't know if they're drunk. You don't know if they're wasted. You don't know if they're tripping on acid. You don't know if they just broke up with their girlfriend. You don't know if they're ready to kill somebody. You don't know if they're happy, so happy that they're just losing their mind, right? They might be under MK mind control for all you know. Who knows? But you're surrounded by, 3,500, 4,000-pound machines made of steel, of metal and steel and hard composites and plastics. Driving these things at 70, 80 miles an hour. You ever see, think that 4,000 pounds of steel is driving 80 miles an hour next to 4,000 more pounds of steel, and there's like 1.5 feet between the two of them. You just pray that person is focused on what they are doing. And you got to be focused on what you are doing. And part of what you are doing is being focused on what they are doing. While simultaneously, eyes on the road, peripheral vision, eyes on the side view mirrors, so you can see things that come into your vicinity and maneuver accordingly if possible. I say if possible because it's always possible. Those split-second decisions can save your life many times out in the world. God focus. It's funny, the car, God focus, right? Back in 2019, our theme for hip hop, or 2018, excuse me, our theme for Hip Hop Appreciation Week was focus. Our theme that year was focus, and I had a car called a Ford Focus. And I was out on tour, and my life had changed, and I had to just turn the car back in. It was a new car. My financial circumstances has changed, and I didn't need the car no more like that. I wasn't gonna be making that monthly payment like that, so I drove it back to Ford. It's called a Ford Focus, right? And I was like, oh, I'm giving up my Focus. And then it was like, no, you're giving up the Focus that you could or couldn't afford. And I was like, oh, word. I'm giving up my afford Focus. I'm putting a value on my Focus. I'm putting up my numerical value Focus. And I'm actually returning back to my God Focus. I don't need a Ford Focus. I need my God Focus. That's the God Focus. The Christ, that's the God Focus. Not just like the Christ as the metaphysical principles of the Christ. Not just the example of the life that Jesus led as the Christ, but the Christ that is within each of us. Jesus taught that. What Christ is in you? What is it focused on? What is your God focused on for your life? What is God focused on for your life? Are there things in your life that you may need to let go so you can focus more on God? So God can get you more focused and you can become more focused on what it is that you want to accomplish and you need to accomplish in your life? What are you focused on? A lot of corruption's being exposed lately, A lot of double standards are being exposed lately. And I'm one of those dudes, when I see people who hold double standards, it's like I don't really respect double standards. What's right for you is right for you, but not right for me. Okay? What is God focused on in your life? Why is God focused on that? Let's take a moment and look at the word focus. I'll put this definition of focus up here. This is from the American Heritage Dictionary, the 3rd edition. Let's just read the definitions of focus. There's quite a few here, and it's actually really interesting, okay? Because as a focal point, as a fulcrum, each of us is like what God is focusing God's light through. I think we get into camera apertures and we get into other things here on these definitions. Check this out. Focus, the very first definition relates to this what we're talking about here tonight. Definition 1A. A point at which rays of light or other radiation converge, or from which they appear to diverge, as after refraction or reflection in an optical system. That's the light from the cameras. That's the light from these crystals. Prismatic light hits these crystals and is refocused into rainbow. You can't really see it now because when sunlight comes in and hits these crystals here, you'll see rainbows all over the place. And like the prismatic rainbow light comes from these crystals. That's a focus of light. It's hitting these crystals at a certain angle and then it's refracting back out. That's the same with you and I. Like our body is made of gems and minerals and crystals and water. Water reflects back out. You can see rainbows through water. You see it when sunlight hits certain water and moisture in the air. That's you. That's me, right? We're that reflected light. We are the light of God. Let's look at this again. A point at which rays of light or other radiation converge, or from which they appear to diverge, as after refraction or reflection in an optical system, also called a focal point. Definition 1B. C, focal length. Definition 2A, the distances or clarity of an image rendered by an optical system. See, that's when you're focusing on. See, look at yourself as the optical system. You have eyes; those are your optical system. And the distinctness or clarity of an image rendered by an optical system. What is the clarity when you're visualizing? When you're in your visualization process, what is the distinctness or the clarity of the image you are creating in your mind of yourself, of your future, of your present, even of your past? What are you focused on when you look at those things? Definition 2B, the state of maximum distinctness or clarity of such an image. If something's in focus or out of focus, once again, put this into mind. This is pretty much talking about cameras here, but put this into the mind, into the mind's eye. The camera is based on the eyeball and the way the eyeball works. The lenses of the camera is based upon how the lenses of the eyeball work. So when it's saying here, the state of maximum distinctness or clarity of such an image, in focus or out of focus. Have you focused in on yourself to such a degree that you have the maximum distinctness and clarity of the image of you that you see for yourself? Definition 2C, an apparatus used to adjust the focal length of an optical system in order to make an image distinct or clear. That apparatus, my nobility, that apparatus is your mind. Definition number 3, a center of interest or activity. Well, we could call that hypopia. A center of interest or activity. Well, we are all interested in the activity of hypopia. Here's focus now, where we're getting more into it when we talk about like our mental focus, our heart focus, our spiritual focus, our soul focus. Meditation, affirmation, prayer, what are we focused on? Right here in definition number 4. Close or narrow attention, concentration. It's the concentration. See, we're concentrating all these other ideas and just focus on certain ideas. We can concentrate, there's all these thoughts that come to us, but we concentrate on certain thoughts to see a certain outcome. Definition number 5, this one's very good too. A condition in which something can be clearly apprehended or perceived. God focus, a condition in which something can be clearly apprehended or perceived. 6, in pathology, the region of a localized bodily infection or disease. Number 7, in geology, the point of origin of an earthquake. In mathematics, a fixed point whose relationship with the directrix determines a conic section. Definition number 1, focus, focus, focusing, focuses, focused, focusing, focuses. Definition number 1, to cause light rays, for example, to converge on or toward a central point of concentration. To render an object or image in clear outline or sharp detail by the adjustment of one's vision or an optical device, bring into focus. I feel y'all know and see what I'm saying here now. Bringing things in and out of focus in our mind. To adjust a lens, for example, to produce a clear image, to direct towards a particular point or purpose. Now that's your life right there. That is our life, my nobility. To direct towards a particular point or purpose. What is your purpose? Are you focused on your purpose? That's God focus. To converge on or towards a central point of focus, to be focused. To adjust one's vision or an optical device so as to render a clear, distinct image, to concentrate attention or energy. Word. It's interesting to look at those definitions because once again, when we talk about these definitions, most of the time, these aren't new definitions. We understand the different ways that we're using the word focus. But when we look at all the definitions at once when we bring to a word, we bring more awareness to, what that word is. So when we talk about all these definitions of focus, we become more aware of what our focus is and what our focus is actually capable of. It's amazing how we can see far into the so-called future. We can see far into the so-called past. We can see into other timelines. We can see into other possible outcomes. There's so many things that our mind's eye can see, but what are we focused on? Okay? And the colonizer knows this, knows that what we're focused on is going to be what we produce in our reality. So if we're focused on the colonizer's ideas and the colonizer's politics and the colonizer's economy and the colonizer's religion and colonizer's medicine and the colonizer's food and the colonizer's philosophy and the colonizer's belief and the colonizer's oppression, and we focus on that, if we put our focus on that and what they want us to focus on, which is to be a productive member of their colonization, of their colony, then our hands are going to be going to work, our mouths are going to be going to work, our legs, our eyesight, our vision, our focus is going to be going to work for them, not for us. When we turn the light around and we say, I'm a sovereign being, I am hip-hop, I'm hip to my hop, I'm aware of why I move, I don't, my environment doesn't command me. I command my environment. My environment doesn't define me. I define my environment. Well, then we get empowered. And when we are empowered, they're disempowered. And not that we're suppressing them or even doing what they were doing to us, but we're just no longer participating in their bad ideas. Why would we participate in such bad ideas? Like, the governments of the world are such a bad idea. And what they're doing right now is so many bad ideas after bad ideas. And they tell you they don't know what they're talking about. We're like, fine, we don't either. Well, not all people, but a lot of people do. It's pretty wild what the last couple of years have revealed about human nature. And even those people we know and what their nature actually is when times change and shift, we can see that. We can see who's really about it and who's not. All of that aside, with all of those distractions of what he's doing, she's doing, they're doing, what are we doing? Hip-hop? What are you doing? Hip-hop? Are you hip to your hop? That's God focused. God focus is hip hop. Being hip to one's hop is God focus. Prince performing on stage, God focus. That's such a high level of artistic mastery. Michael Jordan, God focus. They have videos called Michael Jordan God mode. And people don't even think it's blasphemy. Because you watch him in what they call God mode, and he's in another mode. He's in another focus. He's operating outside the matrix. He's Neo. He broke the matrix, the way he's doing things. Broke the matrix. Bruce Lee's movies and his fight scenes, or you watch him in slow motion when he's moving, God focus. Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream, the freestyle part of it, God focus. And all the unsung heroes, those who actually raise a healthy family, God focus. Those who grow really good, dank, organic produce, God focus. Those who heroically run into danger and save people's lives, God focus. You see what it is? And each one of us has something that God wants us to focus on. We are the focal point of God's light. Let there be light. It's interesting in the Genesis account of creation that light existed before the sun. There was light before the sun. What is that light? That's the light of God. God focus. Light focus. We're like I was saying earlier, it's like the crystal, and this light's coming into us, this God light's coming into us, and this God light is being reflected back out of us. And really, which one is it? The God light is being reflected out of us and back into us, and back out of us and back into us. The in and the out, the yin and the yang, the hip and the hop. We're going to start with the game of life. We've got quite a bit of reading tonight, actually. So I'm going to read it. I'll comment on it as we're going along. But this book was the gospel of hip-hop for me before the gospel of hip-hop came out. It was interesting. I read from this quite often, and this book actually inspired the teacher early on in his metaphysical journey. This book was written in 1925 by Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It. And this section I'm reading tonight called Casting the Burden, Impressing the Subconscious. Impressing the subconscious. This is about the focus and focusing the subconscious mind. Okay? This is brilliant. And the reason that I wanted to bring this one in this week is because I noticed this week how much I actually use these techniques in my day-to-day life. And when we've been practicing certain techniques our whole life, we don't even realize that we're doing it. Like this has been so embedded in my consciousness for so long now, for 10 solid years now, 11 solid, longer than that. But I remember back in 2008, so 12, 13 years ago. I remember the year that I had this, that I had an audio version of this, and I put it on my iPod. And I would just go walk and for hours listening to this thing over and over and over and over again on repeat, so it would impress it on my subconscious mind, right? There wasn't a lot. I mean, like back in 2008, this stuff isn't that. I mean, you got to know where to go to get it. You can just go online now on YouTube and hear anything. There's so many great books and audio books that have helped people on YouTube. You can just go plug in and listen to the audio books of great, of great metaphysics or great literature, or even the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the teachings of Buddha. You can go online and hear those in your headphones, and it comes in a different way than actually just reading it, right? A different comprehension can come along. But I just wanted to read this called Casting the Burden, because often I talk about embracing things in our reality and embracing them with that, the fire within, the pure eye fire, the fire of the heart, the fire of the soul, the Christ within even. And I noticed here it's going to talk about the mind and the superconscious mind. I've always had the superconscious mind as something up here, but I'm realizing that the superconscious mind is this mind, and this mind all working harmoniously as one. So that casting the burden is something to me that the greatest mind is in the heart. The greatest part of our mind is in our heart. Let's read. When man knows his own powers and the workings of his mind, his great desire is to find an easy and quick way to impress the subconscious with good. For simply an intellectual knowledge of the truth will not bring results. See, an easy and quick way to impress the subconscious with good. That's the focus. She goes on to say, in my own case, I found the easiest way is in casting the burden. A metaphysician once explained it in this manner. He said, the only thing which gives anything weight in nature is the law of gravitation. And if a boulder could be taken high above the planet, there would be no weight in that boulder. And that is what Jesus Christ meant when he said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Look how deep that is too. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. What is focused through us? Light is focused through us. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. He had overcome the world vibration and functioned in the fourth dimensional realm where there is only perfection, completion, life, and joy. Look at this. He had overcome the world vibration and functioned in the fourth dimensional realm where there is only perfection, completion, life, and joy. He said, come to me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. We are also told in the 55th Psalm to cast thy burden upon the Lord. Many passages in the Bible state that the battle is God's, not man's, and that man is always to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. This indicates that the superconscious mind, or the Christ within, is the department which fights man's battles and relieves him of burdens. We see, therefore, that man violates law if he carries a burden. And a burden is an adverse thought or condition. And this thought or condition has its roots in the subconscious. It seems almost impossible to make any headway directing the subconscious from the conscious or reasoning mind, as the reasoning mind, the intellect, is limited in its conceptions and filled with doubts and fears. So see what she's saying here? She's saying that the conscious mind has so much doubt and fear. The reasoning mind, the intellect mind is limited by its conceptions. So to allow the subconscious mind and the superconscious mind to go to work for you, casting that burden on the Christ within, on the superconscious mind within, on the God focus within, on the God within. So when you have a burden or are heavy laden or don't know what to do, embrace that burden by casting that burden upon the Christ within, upon your higher self. The superconscious mind then can go to work because it's been given the permission. The conscious mind is aware that it's turned its power back over to the God force. And then the conscious mind realizes it's not the one that's in control. It's aware of what's going on. It's conscious of what's going on. But it also realizes through faith that a greater force is there to guide our direction at all times, always available, always there. How scientific it then is to cast the burden upon the superconscious mind or the Christ within, where it is made light or dissolved into its native nothingness. For example, a woman in urgent need of money made light upon the Christ within, the superconsciousness with this statement: I cast this burden of lack on the Christ within, and I go free to have plenty. Now that's a great affirmation right there, my nobility. I cast this burden of lack on the Christ within, and I go free to have plenty. The belief in lack was her burden, as she cast it upon the superconsciousness with its belief of plenty. An avalanche of supply was the result. We read, the Christ in you, the hope of glory. Another example. One of my students had been given a new piano, and there was no room in her studio for it until she had moved out of the old one. She was in a state of perplexity. She wanted to keep the old piano, but knew of no place to send it. She became desperate, as the new piano was to be sent immediately. In fact, was on its way. With no place to put it, she said it came to her to repeat, I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. A few moments later, her phone rang, and a woman friend asked if she might rent her old piano, and it was moved out a few minutes before the new one arrived. Now see how dope that is? She just said, I cast the burden. I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. I cast this burden on the God within. I cast this burden upon the God force within me, and I go free. I cast this burden. When we cast that burden on the Christ within, on the superconscious mind, on that mind that sees and knows more, all of a sudden, the solution appeared immediately. I knew a woman whose burden was resentment. She said, I cast this burden of resentment on the Christ within, and I go free to be loving, harmonious, and happy. The almighty superconsciousness flooded the subconscious with love, and her whole life was changed. For years, resentment had held her in a state of torment and imprisoned her soul, the subconscious mind. The statement should be made over and over and over, sometimes for hours at a time, silently or audibly, with quietness but determination. See, she's given the keys here for affirmation. Make a positive affirmation that's simple to remember, and then saying it over and over and over again, especially in the beginning when you're getting used to affirmation. The more we use affirmation, the more it's like a muscle, like affirmation's like a muscle, and we're using it all the time, a lot of times towards the wrong things. But when we affirm those things that are right, when we affirm that, I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go forward freely, when we affirm that over and over again, and we see it come to fruition, and then something else happens and we do that again, the more we do it, the less time it takes for that affirmation to really stick. And it's to a point now, I'll say this, it's come to a point now where a lot of times I've made so many of these empowering affirmations that they're just happening. They're just like on a loop that I don't even consciously think of. They're a loop on the subconscious mind. So I already know that things are just happening in my favor. I already know that the answers are in my immediate environment. I already know that I'm going to be taken care of, so there's no need to worry. And why? Because I was put in situations where I had no choice but to have my faith in God. And you've been there too. You've been there too, where there's these situations where we have no choice but to feel God. And just to know God has taken care of us, and we walk forward in that faith, and then the food comes, the shelter comes immediately. And we don't have to go through hours and hours of that affirmation, but go through that affirmation, that hours and hours when you have the time. So when the other time comes that you need it, it happens quicker and more smoothly. Let's continue. I'll read that again. The statement should be made over and over and over, sometimes for hours at a time, silently or audibly, with quietness but determination. I have often compared it to the winding up of a Victorola. I've often compared it to the winding up of Victorola. Victorola. I've often compared it to winding up a Victorola. We must wind ourselves up with spoken words. Victorola, I believe, is an old record player. They used to have to wind up the record player, and then the needle would go down and play the song. That was how the power was produced for the original record player. I'll put a picture of a Victorola up here, just in case I'm wrong, or even if I'm right. We'll put a picture of it up here, so we have a moment to contemplate what she's saying here. She's saying that the way that they had to wind up to get this machine to work, that's the same way those affirmations are wound up inside of us to get our machine to work, to get our focus to work on what it needs to focus on in the environment. The environment too. Let's not forget the environment, which is very more important. I have noticed in casting the burden, after a little while, one seems to see clearly. It is impossible to have clear vision while in the throes of carnal mind. Doubts and fears poison the mind and body, and imagination runs riot, attracting disaster and disease. Steadily repeating the affirmation, I cast this burden on the Christ within and go free. The vision clears, and with it a feeling of relief. Sooner or later comes the manifestation of good, be it health, happiness, or supply. One of my students once asked me to explain the, quote, darkness before the dawn, end quote. I referred in a preceding chapter to the fact that often before the big demonstration, everything seems to go wrong. And deep depression clouds the consciousness. It means that out of the subconsciousness are rising the doubts and fears of the ages. These old derelicts of the subconscious rise to the surface to be put out. Yo, when you're moving towards your purpose, when you're moving towards the light, when you're moving to what God has you focused on, this guy's asking her, like, what is the darkness before the dawn? Well, the darkness before the dawn is when everything's all these old worries, all these old demons, all these old doubts, all these old fears, all these old things, bad habits start coming to the surface right before the demonstration. And the reason they're coming to the surface is to be put out. And this is the point in creation where a lot of people give up because that old stuff comes up and then they got to bounce because they're like, I either got to run from this, I'm not fighting it. But this is when you know that, when you see that darkness coming in your life, know that the light is just around the corner and you've got to stay focused and get through that darkness. Put that darkness out. Put it out. Be the light in that moment. This is eternal. This is internal, what she's talking about. Yeah, it could be external. Things can start going bad around your environment. But the internal, those fears, those doubts, those things that come up when you're ready and you're expressing your faith, and all of a sudden the big moment's about to arrive. You're about to hit the stage for the first time and you got butterflies. You feel like you're going to throw up. Push through it. Those are the old doubts, the old fears coming to surface to be put out. Snuff them out. They don't belong to you. They're not yours. It is then the man should clap his cymbals like Jehoshaphat and give thanks that he is saved, even though he seems surrounded by the enemy, the situation of lack or disease. The student continued, how long must one remain in the dark? And I replied, until one can see in the dark, and casting the burden enables one to see in the dark. In order to impress the subconscious, active faith is always essential. Faith without works is dead. In these chapters, I have endeavored to bring out this point. Jesus Christ showed active faith when he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground before he gave thanks for the loaves and the fishes. I will give another example showing how necessary this step is. In fact, active faith is the bridge over which man passes to his promised land. Through misunderstanding, a woman had been separated from her husband, whom she loved deeply. He refused all offers of reconciliation and would not communicate with her in any way. Coming into the knowledge of spiritual law, she denied the appearance of separation. She made this statement, there is no separation in the divine mind. Therefore, I cannot be separated from the love and companionship which are mine by divine right. She showed active faith by arranging a place for him at the table every day, thereby impressing the subconscious with a picture of his return. Over a year passed, but she never wavered, and one day he walked in. The subconscious is often impressed through music. This is the part really deep right here. So my nobility, get this God focus, see? This is a longer reading, but the reason I'm given a longer reading than I normally give is because when books like this were written, people had a lot more focus, a lot longer attention span. So this longer reading is an exercise in paying attention. Go back and rewind if you have to. Watch portions of this video again. This is very, very profound, deep, helpful metaphysics. These are metaphysics that you can actually put to use in your life immediately and have the changes you desire and you need in your life. The subconscious is often impressed through music. Music has a fourth dimensional quality and releases the soul from imprisonment. It makes wonderful things seem possible and easy of accomplishment. Yo, that's hip hop. Oh, it's rhyme. That's what we talk about, the power of the spoken word. You know, when you listen to hip hop and somebody's braggadocious, braggadero, my name's Zin Uru means the promised land because I feel at home wherever I stand. Boom, ba-doom, boom, I can hear the music. And because I've said that rhyme so many times and I know the music with it, that rhyme has made such an impression on my mind. My name's Zin Uru, it means the promised land because I feel at home wherever I stand. I do. Wherever I'm at, I feel like I'm at home. People have seen me be taking naps everywhere. Because I feel like I'm at home, I gotta take a quick little breather nap. Catch my breath, 10-minute nap. I have a friend who uses her Victorola daily for this purpose. It puts her in perfect harmony and releases the imagination. Another woman often dances while making her affirmations. The rhythm and harmony of music and motion carry her words forth with tremendous power. The student must also remember not to despise the day of small things. Pay attention here, my nobility. Invariably, before a demonstration comes signs of land. Now she says Columbus here. Fuck Christopher Columbus. We already know that, okay? Let's say Noah. Before Noah reached dry land, he saw birds and twigs which showed him land was near. So it is with the demonstration. But often the student mistakes it for the demonstration itself and is disappointed. For example, a woman had spoken the word for a set of dishes. Not long afterwards, a friend gave her a dish which was old and cracked. She came to me and said, "Well, I asked for a set of dishes, and all I got was a cracked plate." I replied, "The plate was only signs of land. It shows your dishes are coming. Look upon it as birds and seaweed." Not long afterwards, the dishes came. Continually making believe impresses the subconsciousness. If one makes believe he is rich and makes believe he is successful, in due time, he will reap. Children are always making believe, and except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not inherit the kingdom of heaven. For example, I know of a woman who is very poor, but no one could make her feel poor. She earned a small amount of money from rich friends who constantly reminded her of her poverty and to be careful in saving. Regardless of their admonitions, she would spend all of her earnings on a hat or make someone a gift and be in a rapturous state of mind. Her thoughts were always centered on beautiful clothes and rings and things, but without envying others. She lived in the world of the wondrous, and only riches seemed real to her. Before long, she married a rich man, and the rings and things became visible. I do not know whether the man was the divine selection, but opulence had to manifest in her life, for she had imagined only opulence. There is no peace or happiness for man until he has erased all fear from the subconscious. Fear, now here it is, my nobility, here it is. This is it in this closing part of this chapter. Rise up, my nobility. Cast off the burden of fear. Fear is the mind killer, as Paul Moadib says in the Dune movie. The new one's coming out. Looks pretty hot. Fear is misdirected energy and must be redirected or transmuted into faith. See, look at this. Fear is misdirected energy and must be redirected or transmuted into faith. Transmute that fear into faith. Redirect that fear into faith. Jesus Christ said, "Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? All things are possible to him that believeth." I am asked so often by my students, how can I get rid of fear? I reply, by walking up to the thing you are afraid of. The lion takes its fierceness from your fear. Walk up to the lion and he will disappear. Run away and he runs after you. I have shown in previous chapters how the lion of lack disappeared when the individual spent money fearlessly, showing faith that God was his supply and therefore unfailing. Many of my students have come out of the bondage of poverty and are now bountifully supplied through losing all fear of letting money go out. The subconsciousness is impressed with the truth that God is the giver and the gift. That's a t-shirt right there. God is the giver and the gift. You can say that one 1,000,000 times over. God is the giver and the gift. God is the giver and the gift. God is the giver and the gift. Therefore, as one is one with the giver, he is one with the gift. A splendid statement is, I now thank God the giver for God the gift. Man has so long separated himself from his good and his supply through thoughts of separation and lack, that sometimes it takes dynamite to dislodge their false ideas from the subconscious, and the dynamite is a big situation. We see in the foregoing illustration how the individual was freed from his bondage by showing fearlessness. Man should watch himself hourly to detect if his motive for action is fear or faith. Choose ye this day whom ye shall serve, fear or faith. Perhaps one's fear is of personality. Then do not avoid the people feared. Be willing to meet them cheerfully, and they will either prove golden links in the chain of one's good or disappear harmoniously from one's pathway. Perhaps one's fear is of a disease or germs. Now check this out. This was so funny when I was reading this. This is 2020, 2021. Come on now, this is the metaphysics. Rise up, metaphysicians. This is the truth. This is why I never get sick. Perhaps one's fear is of disease or germs. Then one should be fearless and undisturbed in a germ-laden situation, and he would be immune. One can only contract germs while vibrating at the same rate as the germ. And fear drags men down to the level of germ. Of course, the disease-laden germ is the product of carnal mind, as all thoughts must objectify. Germs do not exist in the superconsciousness or divine mind, therefore are the products of man's vain imagination. In the twinkling of an eye, man's release will come when he realizes that there is no power in evil. There is no power in evil. The material world will fade away, and the fourth dimensional world, the world of the wonders, will swing into manifestation. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. She is a deep metaphysician. That was written in 1925. I wish I heard about this when I was 12 or 13 years old. I wish I heard this at church or school. You feel me? Casting the burden on the Christ within. Moving forward. Making a strong affirmation. Holding the vision. Holding the focus. Holding that God focus. That God focus, my nobility. There is no power in evil. There are not two powers. There is only one power, God. So many chumps running around. Be afraid, be afraid. I am not afraid. Today, I give myself permission to be all that I can be. New fields of divine activity now open for me. Unexpected doors fly open. Unexpected channels are now free. My mind is focused and directed toward my victory. I now create what I need through divine energy. Good things come to me easily, in peace, and at the right time. And there it is. That is a daily affirmation given to Simone, Minister Simone, and the teacher from the teacher's mother. And it's also in the third overstanding, the divine performance, page 144. You'll find that affirmation I just said. We do that on our 21-day divine performance affirmation. It's an affirmation that we say for 21 days, 3 times in the morning and once before going to sleep at night. And you'll notice when you say it, your mind just starts saying certain affirmations. Like when you're afraid, there is no power in fear. There is no power in fear. There is no power in fear. Other ones, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. You can say these affirmations thousands of different ways. But let them stick. There are not 2 powers. There is only one power, God. There are not 2 powers. There is only one power, God. You see how affirmations work? You say it and say, when you speak affirmations, empowering affirmations, say it to your bone marrow. Let your bone marrow resonate with it. Say it to your blood vessels. Let your blood vessels resonate with it. Speak to the water of your body. Let the water of your body resonate with that. Let it resonate with the light of Christ. That's what the king did. My nobility, you are so powerful, headed in the right direction. That's why the colonizer wants to put you in the wrong direction, looking at the wrong things, looking at their misinterpretations of things. But when we come and we rise up in our own power, and when we know who we are, when we are hip to our hop, we come into a place of God focus, and we are focused on God, and we realize that God is focused on us. And really, when God is focused on us, God is just using us. God is focused through us. Wow. God is focused through the fist of Bruce Lee. Wow. I want to use endarkenment because one of the questions in the game of life and how to play it, the student asked, the darkness before the dawn. And he said, well, how will I know? Wait, I'm going to read this quote here. This quote is so great. He said, how long must one remain in the dark? And I replied, until one can see in the dark. And casting the burden enables one to see in the dark. And remember earlier when we were looking at the definition of focus, it was talking about light energy, electromagnetic energy, biorhythmic energy. So I want to read endarkenment, just the intro to endarkenment. I usually don't teach a lot of these deeper metaphysics because I don't want a beginner to get these metaphysics. And, so I like to keep things, I get deep every week. I get deep. I'm dropping it. I'm dropping heavy stuff. But like these techniques, these are for the learned. These are for the ones who go through the weekly studies. These are for the ones who study on their own. I want to talk endarkenment for a moment because this is talking about electromagnetic energy. And this is just going to read the introduction. I'm going to read a few pages of this because I just want to put this into context, and you can see how even the game of life helped influence the gospel of hip hop. I got the game of life from the teacher. He actually gave me a CD of the game or a cassette tape of the game of life and how to play it. We would, when we would drive, he'd put it in and we would just listen to it, right? Way back in 2005 and 6. And so he gave me that tape, and then that's when I made the digital copy of it. I borrowed the tape. You can turn to the 8th Overstanding Endarkenment on page 355 in the Gospel of Hip Hop, written by the teacher, KRS-One, and we're going to be reading track 1. Consider this. Spiritual life is reflected more in natural circumstances and symbolic ideas. To be more specific, the natural physical world is an effect, or rather a temporary flickering, a spark caused by the activity of light energy, electromagnetic radiation. All is light energy. It is only our perception and interpretation of light energy that actually presents the material world to us. Keep in mind, my nobility, we're talking about God focus here, and focusing the light, focusing our intention, focusing our awareness, focusing our spirit, focusing our mind, focusing our thinking, focusing our purpose. All is light. All is eternal mind. At the essence of all material things are vibrations of electromagnetic waves, commonly called light. What we call the material world is simply our interpretations of these electromagnetic waves. And remember, these electromagnetic waves are traveling through what? Through water. What we call the material world is simply our interpretation of these electromagnetic waves. Everything that we see or sense is really our interpretation of light. And you can perceive and then use light as anything that you wish. The material world is our interpretation of various forms of light. The vibration of light is constant. However, it is our interpretation of light that creates our material world. Anything that you desire, you can have, because nothing is actually separate from yourself. Simply act and feel like you already have whatever you desire, and it must materialize. You and whatever you desire are really the same things in essence. Having an attitude of expectancy regulates the speed at which we detect light energy, and focus or conscious attention directs expectancy. However, it is one's values, which are created by the principles one has come to accept in life, that organize and directs one's focus. Read this again until you fully understand its meaning. I'll read that again. Having an attitude of expectancy regulates the speed at which we detect light energy, and focus or conscious attention directs expectancy. However, it is one's values which are created by the principles one has come to accept in life, but organize and direct one's focus. Together, one's life's principles, which create one's values, which direct one's conscious attention or focus, which then directs the force of one's expectancy, manipulate our interpretation of light energy, and certain people, places, things, and circumstances manifest in our lives. You truly get whatever you expect. Your awareness of yourself or focus upon yourself as a certain kind of person controls the speed at which certain kinds of human necessities, values, vibrate into your environment. Remember, principles plus values plus focus equals expectancy. What do you expect? Know this: the awareness of the human beings vibrates at much slower than the awareness of spirit beings. This is where we get into what you should focus on now, my nobility. Focus on your spirit being, but a certain type of spirit being. Human beings tend to focus upon, or rather expect, slower material vibrations than spirit beings. Likewise, the values and necessities of spirit beings lead those beings to expect bigger results from light energy than human beings are capable of perceiving. Vibrations such as health, love, wealth, faith, forgiveness, etc. vibrate at much faster speeds of awareness than sickness, hatred, ignorance, poverty, doubt, hate, revenge, etc. The question here is, which group of vibrations do you truly value the most? What do you expect? Of course, at first glance, one is quick to value health over sickness or forgiveness over revenge. However, upon a closer observation, we can see that most people value the power of sickness more than they value the power of health. They actually expect sickness more than they expect health. They actually believe more in the possibilities and powers of sickness than in the possibilities and powers of perfect and continuous health. Sure, on the surface, We agree that forgiveness is better than revenge and that love is better than hate until we ourselves are wronged in some kind of way. Then our real principles and values come to light. And it is our focus or expectancy upon these principles and values that speeds up or slows down our awareness. You are the truth, and you cannot truly lie to yourself. And many people will try to lie to themselves, but they know they're lying. Whenever I've lied to myself, I knew I was lying to myself. How could you not know? Human awareness vibrates at the speed of all it sees. It is our own focus, conscious attention that interprets light energy itself. The more we focus upon things, the more we become aware about things, eventually experiencing the actualization of what we are aware of. Therefore, when one truly expects one's own spiritual reality and begins to truly value, to focus upon the principles of spirit as opposed to the temporary effects of the world, one will eventually manifest the reality of spirit in the temporary reality of the physical world. Such activity appears supernatural and miraculous in the physical world. However, such supernatural and miraculous activity is simply about adjusting your expectancy of things by adjusting the value you place upon things. Everyone affects their physical reality they see and perceive. When you truly perceive your God, the presence of God shall be with you always. When you begin to truly value spirit, spiritual things shall begin happening to you. Most people want God in their lives, but they do not really expect God in their lives. Either way, they do not really value God, or they do not really value themselves. When you expect God in your life, God then appears. However, if you expect to fight your devil when you wake up every morning, such a devil will be right there ready to do battle with you every morning. Attuned hip-hoppers must be mindful as to what they place their focus, their conscious attention upon. Again, the question here is, what do you truly expect, even respect? What do you truly value? For it is through the repetition of certain words, affirmations, and prayers that one focuses one's awareness upon the values of one's heart. It is also what one places one's money and time upon that determines what one values the most. If you're spending your time and money, donation link down below, quick plug, but if you're spending your time on this kind of knowledge, it shows that you value health, love, awareness, and wealth, peace, prosperity, love, joy, grace, health, these type things. And remember what she was saying in the game of life and how to play it. People are actually vibrating at the lower realms of disease and catching the disease, catching the germs. Because they're afraid of catching it, they catch it. I mean, these are advanced metaphysics that need to be understood and understood in the right way. But this is knowledge that's been out in the world. And the ones who control the media, they know these sciences. But what they're ignoring is the law of karma, which is about to smack them all right upside the head. Quick. Wait till you watch this. Wait till you watch what happens. Oh, man. I've seen it. It's coming. Will you be ready? Are you really prepared for the days to come? I know I am. Because no matter what circumstance, when you walk and you're not afraid, when you don't vibrate at the lower levels of fear, of depression, of anxiety, of lack, of doubt, when you don't vibrate at those lower frequencies, it doesn't matter what's going on outside of you. You're vibrating at the vibration of God frequency. Therefore, those things of God are going to come through you and to you. I don't know how many times I was on tour with not even knowing where my next meal was going to come from not even on tour, when just the adventure God's taken me on, my spiritual journey, right? On the ministry of hip hop, and I've had money and I've been broke. I've had houses and I've had couches, I've had everything in between in this time. But I'm so glad I did, because those times of lack, when all I had was just me and my faith became more real than it ever was before. So I know no matter what circumstance, I'm vibrating at a frequency, even when I'm hungry, because this is something to be said for fasting, because you don't fear lack of food when you are continually fasting on a regular basis, on a weekly basis. And I mean real fasting, not just pretending to fast for a few hours. I mean real fasting, intermittent fasting, letting meals digest, going days without food, going a couple days without food, going 18 hours without food and only eating a couple small meals in a day. Whatever that is, curving that addiction towards food. Because really addiction is fear of lack, like you're not going to have the food. A lot of people are addicted to food because they're afraid that they're going to be lacking and not have that food. And so they start lower vibrational at that food, and they start vibrating like they look like the food. But when you're not addicted to food like that, you're not afraid of losing the food. You know God's going to provide. God's always provided the food. And I've missed meals, and I realized when I missed certain meals, I didn't need those meals that I missed. And then once I realized that I didn't need those meals that I missed, I just started missing meals on purpose. I don't have to miss a meal nowadays, but I do miss meals nowadays. It's all about moderation and regulation. You get a lot of these techniques, you just get used to them all the time, and you refine them. You refine the process. But that's why I'm not afraid of, we survive Armageddon. That's why I can say that. Because I know this vibrational frequency survives it. I like this so-called catastrophe these last couple of years in the world. I've been nothing. I mean, I've battled demons. I've had things come and attack me. I've dealt with life. I've dealt with life. But every day I've experienced some form of joy, continuous health, continuous love, continuous awareness, continuous wealth. It's not like I'm all the time. No, man, I get serious. You listen to my rhymes. My rhymes are serious. Wait till you hear the next album, Ark of the New Covenant. Or you hear the other album, Electric Garden. Got them both, and I've just been refining them and working on them. But man, some heavy content in there. So I'm not promoting. My God focus is focused. My God focus on our survival for real. I mean, our survival for real. Our thrival for real. God focus on my art. God focus on your art. What are you focused on? What is it that you are focused on? Put that God focus to work, my nobility. Health, love, awareness, and wealth. Spiritual insight, joy, inspiration, purpose. If you don't focus your mind, somebody else will focus it for you. I guarantee. If you don't focus your mind, somebody else is going to focus it for you. And younger people, I come from an age where we used to listen to a whole album front to back. I come from an age where we didn't have the internet. We had books. That's why I love books. I read books because I grew up with books, not the internet. I didn't have every song at my disposal that it was ever written and recorded online. You get an album and it was a really good one, you treasure it. You'd hear a song and you'd want to get the album. You'd listen. And we would just watch movies. Like how many people watch movies or watching Netflix and and are scrolling on Facebook at the same time? I've caught myself doing it, right? So I know. But I come from an age, an era, my generation, and even before that, they were saying that we had too many distractions when I was growing up. So, but the distractions I had when I was growing up ain't nothing like the distractions they got. It was video games. That was the big distraction when I was growing up. Video games. They got all these kids distracted. Little did they know that little device in everybody's hand got everybody distracted. The whole world distracted, right? And that thing is distracting you from the focus that you should be having on God's will, plan, and purpose for your life. What is God's will, plan, and purpose for your life? Can you define God's will, plan, and purpose for your life? Can you define? And if you can't, hey, it's a great time to start. It's a great place to start. It's a great time to ask, God, what is your will, plan, and purpose for my life? That's the God focus that I'm talking about. That's the God focus that you have. It is your innate ability. It's some muscles. Just put those muscles to work. I'll talk real quick, too, in closing. The burden and the blessing. We cast the burden upon the Christ within. We cast the burden upon the God force within. We focus the God force and say, I've got this obstacle. I'm going to cast the burden and move forward. I'm afraid of this. I'm going to cast the burden and move forward. And casting the burden on the flame within, on the pure fire within. The truth will be revealed, and the truth about you will be revealed. And when you're not afraid, you ain't afraid. I am not afraid. So there is a burden. We see the burden, and that burden can be heavy. But when we cast that burden, it becomes light. That was what she was saying. It literally becomes light. And what was the gospel saying? It becomes electromagnetic light energy. So a burden gets transmuted into light. It becomes light. It becomes weightless. Electromagnetic energy. The burden is transmuted into the blessing, into the light, into your purpose, into your awareness. What seems like something that's holding you back right now, whatever it is that's holding you back, cast the burden on the Christ within, on the superconscious mind within. Allow the burden to become light. And then direct that light awareness where it needs to be directed. And if you don't know, cast that burden. God, I cast the burden of not knowing on the Christ within, and I move forward freely. Cast the burden of not knowing, you will know. Put these metaphysics to work. Get that book. I got that book for like $4 mailed to me from eBay. Get the book. Get the book, The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. Great book. It's a thin book. You can see how thin it is. Real easy read. Real simple read. Thin book. The audio's on YouTube. You can listen. But, focus in on those type of things. I'm glad I focused on that book so many years ago because I've been casting the burden on the Christ within for so long. I just I can't even tell you how often it does it. That's a book, like I said, that book was given to me before the gospel of hip-hop was ever written, and it helped inspire the gospel of hip-hop. So my nobility, be aware of your environment. Look to those things in your environment that are there to help you, to help govern you, and never be afraid of the truth. Never be afraid to stand up for the truth. Never be afraid to speak the truth that God has placed on your heart. There it is, my nobility. Peace and so much love to you. Hip.